All right, welcome everybody to the Living Hope Agency Call. I'm excited to have our special guest on here, my good friend, integrity partner, Mr. Matt Smith. Matt, how you doing today?
Doing great. Thank you. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate being able to give you guys a good message tonight. See what you're made of.
Let's go.
I'm like, what's the dream of? What's the hope in? What's the doubt for? Live to no end. This is living. The life I've been given is a gift. If I'm a living, I'ma live it to death. So what's the dream of? What's the hope in? What's the doubt for? And live to no end. This is living. The life I've been given is a gift. If I'm a living, I'ma live it to death. Yeah.
That you can figure out what we're made of, because we're looking for a message that tells us the truth. And I know that you're going to tell us the truth. So guys, Matt is the #1 all-time producer in Family First Life. He's been with Family First Life pretty much since the beginning. And he is what, he might not call himself this, but I like to call him a master sales trainer, somebody who, when you've sat on that many appointments, when you've dialed the phone that many times, when you've put in the amount of repetitions that Matt put in over the last, decade, you can definitely give yourself that title. And I'm excited for him to be able to share with us really his journey here, as well as some things that he's learned along the way on how to kind of master the basics and still be here in this business, really thriving. Matt, I'd love if you just share your quick background with us, how you found out about FFL, and then we'll get right into it.
Sounds great. Thank you again. Congratulations, Brody, on your logo too. Pretty cool. I'm not a race car driver, although sometimes I try to be one. So that's good. So, my background, I'll fast forward. Actually, I'll tell a little story because it sounds more fascinating. My first person I met in college was Sean Ruggiero. So Sean was my college roommate, and we played football together in college. And for those of you that don't know, Sean runs the AMS side for Family First Life. And I invited him over in the car industry out of college to do F&I at my family's dealership called Dave Smith Motors over in Idaho. And that was a great experience to learn how to close versus sell, just get a massive amount of repetitions as far as getting in front of, blue collar, white collar type people, learning how to really add value to a sales process. I basically have been selling insurance since I've been out of college. So I'm 46. You can do the math from there, but never really sold anything that's not tangible. So different type of sale, very exciting type of sale in my opinion. And, it's out of all the things that I've done, whether it's the car industry, mortgage business, real estate, software businesses, RV dealerships, things like that. This by far is the most lucrative. So I think you're definitely on the right bus here and on the right team with Jamie and Family First Life. You guys do a great job of just Jamie's entire group. You guys are pretty awesome, and it's always a breath of fresh air to get around Jamie and hear about your guys' success along the way. So my idea tonight, Jamie, is just challenging each of you on where you're at in the business. So if you don't mind, I'm gonna let it rip for a while, and you can ask me questions.
Sounds fantastic. Love that.
Sounds good. So I'm gonna talk to you guys like you guys were on my team right now. Actually, I did the same call about 2 hours ago. So there you go. But for some of you, or actually, I would rephrase this. For most of you on this call, I think that you guys have level 10 dreams, and you got level 3 work ethic. That's what I think. So I think for many of you, I think you guys have you like the idea of what you define as success, but I don't think you really back it up with the work ethic and the action that requires to be where you're at. So the one thing in life, if you ever want to make any changes and get to where you want to be, you've got to stop lying to yourself. Now, I've done that a lot in my career. I've lied to myself several different times throughout the process, maybe to make myself feel better. But at a certain point, you've got to stop, right? So the reason why I start with that is I'll kind of open up some thought processes and things that I think you probably aren't doing that you should be doing, because to me, number one, if we're just talking about work ethic, that is a requirement that goes without saying. When you're an entrepreneur, when you're self-employed, when you're not trading hours for dollars, when you're able to actually get paid what you're worth in this business, then you have to operate in a different manner. So you have to take accountability on a whole nother level. The biggest problem for most of you on this call is you have choices. So one of the blessings that Family First Life, when I was on Sean's integrity call this morning, and we were talking about Sean, Mike, and I worked at the previous company together, and he was a phenomenal salesperson. That's where a lot of the leadership, Paul and Andrew, et cetera, came from Family First Life, the previous company. And so I've been here since the beginning, and I've seen different things. So for those of you who don't know, shoot, we were being sued at the beginning of FFL, many of us. Also, I had, just to give you a full story of Matt, I had an $80,000 roll up for fun to start. So there's, I hope I'm not scaring everybody off the business, but I have some thoughts and things to say about roll ups too. So that's a different conversation. But I had an office, rent, etc. My point is this: even prior to Family First Life, I was at a low comp, 55%. I was splitting all my business with Sean Ruggiero. We had 2 staff in an office. And the biggest blessing to me in business was the fact that I didn't have a choice but to do it. Because I didn't even, when you don't have a choice but to go out and make it work and make it grind, and there's no plan B, then you don't even think about the failure, just think about what you need to do to succeed. So the problem for most of you on this call right now is you have a choice because we're inherently lazy. As human beings, we're all lazy. We always take the shortcut, not always, but for most of us that are trying to do things, we always take the shortcut or the easiest path in life. And that's probably why when you open your bank account in the mornings, you're fearful, right? So my thought process is for you guys is, how can I talk to you guys and add some value to get you thinking in a different way and get you operating in a different manner? Well, here's a few things that I would think about. So number one is, if the biggest epidemic in this business is the phone and your phone skills, then why aren't you taking it more seriously? You got Jamie, one of the top people in the industry in regards to training the phone, but then you get on live dials or whatever, and you get a, can you call me back? Or I need, can you just give me the price? Or I'm not interested. And you don't even know what to say half the time. You don't even know how to transition quickly when, someone says, I'm not interested. Say, great, that's the perfect my phone call. Generally what happens is your partner, spouse fills out this information to pay off the mortgage if you were to die. So my job is just to get you both this information. Now I have your addresses, this, and you just get back into the phone script. But if you're not equipped for it, now I haven't called a lead in 5 years, but you can see it's like robotic for me, right? Like, you give me any objection and I'm going to overcome it quickly, and I'm going to set the appointment. For most of you on this call, when you think the leads suck, and honestly, you suck. And I don't mean that as a bad thing. I love everyone, but that's just the truth. You're not equipped. You're winging it. If you're one of them people that are winging it in this job, you should wing it and trade hours for dollars, and don't lie to yourself. And I want the best for you, by the way. I want the best for you. I want you to succeed. I want you to do well, but don't wing it. Winging it is going to cost you a tremendous amount of money in this business. So the first thing I would say is *67, block your number, leave voicemails, and then leave texts. So knowing that you have to get better on the phone. Have you ever heard the rules of, like, if you pay an advisor 1% fee, like over 30 years, you'll pay hundreds of thousands of dollars less in your retirement. And then 2%, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars more, 3%. All these little things that we talk about are always like small little 1% adjustments. So it's never, when I'm talking to you guys, it's never this big overhaul that you need to make to have big changes in your business. It's always small tweaks. Okay, so it's just little course corrections along the way. But do yourself a favor, at least get on live dials and get coached, right? So if you're not getting on live dials and getting coached by one of these people that are having extreme results, you're doing yourself a disservice. Put yourself in a vulnerable situation so you can improve. go to an office or work spot so you can get around people that are dialing at a high level, so you can copy and replicate those and duplicate that success. It's just that simple. So that's the first thing I would say is, because you're not good on the phone, it costs you $5 grand. So that's the first thing. So you can write down, Matt Smith just took $5,000 out of my bank account because he said I suck on the phone. Okay, thanks, Matt. Now I'm going to go to the next thing. So the next thing is this: doesn't pertain to our virtual partners. Okay. However, this is when the rubber meets the road. So you've got about a 20% less show ratio virtually as in face-to-face. Everybody tracking with me there? So let's say you got about a 60% show ratio in person on your set to sit ratios, right? So you know off the bat that 40% of the time face-to-face, you're not going to see the clients because that's just the numbers. And virtually, you know that it's going to be about 60% of the time you are not going to see those clients either. So what did we just create right there? A tremendous amount of white space in your calendar that you don't even think about because you think it, because you set an appointment, now you're working. So now that I know if you're setting 15 appointments on Tuesday and Wednesday, and we know 60 or 40% of those are, depending on what you're doing, 60 or 40, virtual or face-to-face, you do the math, you reverse engineer your numbers, you know it. What are you doing with that time? And because you don't dominate that time, and because you don't fill the white space in your calendar, I'm going to take another $5 grand out of your bank account. So now we're up to $10,000 because you're not filling that time with either door knocking activities. For example, if you're in the field, you should be door knocking. People don't answer the phone, so you have to door knock. And you should door knock according to age. Like, obviously, the older the clients during the day, the younger the clients later in the day. But it should just be routine. How do you set yourself apart? How do you make that $5 grand back? You door knock. How do you do it on a virtual level? Well, you're gonna have to get more creative of setting that appointment with them. Either way. So that's something you need to consider and think about. The next area is this. In the chat right now, tell me how many referrals you get through the emergency response network for all of you. Say how many referrals you get. 0, 0. Okay. Ooh, somebody had like 23. That's pretty impressive. 2. I like that. I like, by the way, I like your guys' honesty. It's good stuff. Not 20. All right. So you get the point, right? I like that. 0. That is spelled out too, right? Anyways, so you do know that, right? You know, since you don't ask for referrals, what's going to happen, right? Matt's going to take $5 grand out of your bank account again. Now, every single client you sell, you should have 4 emergency response networks. Now, you can find my little 5-minute training on the Family First Life Northwest YouTube page if you need a reference point. But really what the training is, to try to keep it short and sweet, is the #1 reason why life insurance isn't paid is because the beneficiaries or family or friends they're not aware of the policy. So what we do as a courtesy for our client is we get the names, addresses, phone numbers, we make them aware that you own this policy, and I just need the first name, address, phone number, and you're assumptive with that process. Then you set all your emergency response network people next to your leads, and you dial those. You should have a minimum of 16 emergency response network people a week to call next to your leads. Call through your leads. Now you're calling through your emergency response network every single week. And all you have to do to get an appointment with emergency response network is, hey, John, put this policy in place. You know, do you currently have a emergency response network for your family? No. Yes. Doesn't matter what he says. No, I don't. Great. What time are you generally home from work, you and your spouse? 6 o'clock. Hey, I'm going to come out and put this in place. Oh, no, we already have life insurance. We took care of it. Great. 9 out of 10 times we can improve your existing coverage because all the carriers that we have. So when I get there tomorrow between 6:30 and 7, will you have your policy out? And I'll put this emergency response network in place. And we'll make sure you're got the best coverage for your family and you're taken care of. Does that sound fair? There you go. You're setting appointments with the emergency response network, but you decide because you don't want referrals and you want to buy more leads to drive your cost up, that you're gonna do that is what we're going to do. So now that I just took $5,000 out. So we got $5,000 for phones, $5,000 for kind of door knocking, scheduling, etc. $5,000 for the fact that you don't ask for leads. Now we get to the we're going to get to advanced markets now. So advanced markets, my favorite market to have. That's where, you know, the only reason why people save is for income. And it's very easy when you can develop a black and white income strategy for your clients to move money. And let me tell you something that's a myth is people that got people, they don't have people because they don't have a strategy, because they can't repeat it to you and they don't know what their retirement looks like. They're just blindly putting money in places and hoping for the best. You can actually give them a black and white plan that eliminates fees, might be a 1% or less fee overall, and then give them something like lifetime income to pay them for the rest of their life, which is the #1 retirement fear. So the key on advanced market sales is, number one, you probably should know the 5 retirement fears inside and out. There's a lot of training on that as well. So that's literally like leave a legacy, negative returns, inflation, healthcare cost, and lifetime income. So if you can't say the 5 retirement fears like I just said, then you probably need to do some homework on non-income producing hours, right? You need to figure out what the 5 retirement fears are, because if you know the 5 retirement fears, when you go into somebody's house and you know that the #1 fear is outliving their money, then when you talk to the clients and you start to kill the money in the house, like we would kill someone on paper for life insurance, when you can kill the money in the house, the fear of loss is 2.5 times greater than the fear of gain. It's really easy. It's the easiest sell. What if I told you annuities was the easiest sell? Because it is. So if you know the 5 retirement fears, you know how you can talk to someone, you know what the money's for, you know what the plan is, and then you can talk to them about the average bear market last 7 years, or the average bull market last 7 years. The last 2 bear markets, 40% cliffs, they last about 1.5 years. Right now, we could be starting to see one of the biggest bear markets ever. So this is a topic of conversation for your clients, because we're seeing a big cliff right now. So the hot button and the interest is there. So your job is to get in front of these people and have that conversation. So the average bear market, is 40%. What I'd hate to see happen, John and Mary, is right now you're 64 and you're going to be retired here in another 3 years. And, let's say the market crashes when you're 75 and then 40% of your portfolio is gone. You're taking 5% out. And then all of a sudden, when you're 78 years old, you've ran out of money simply because of sequence of returns, because you can't control the market. John and Mary, can you see how your money's at risk right now? Yes. Okay. What if I can show you a way where we can eliminate the risk, give you black and white retirement planning, and give you income for life? Would that be of interest to you? Yes. Okay, just give me a statement and I'll come back in 2 days and show you what that looks like. So now you're starting to, I'm just giving you, there's a lot of training, like I said, on my Northwest page. You can check out annuity training, but I'm giving you some word tracks and things to go with on the AMS side. Now that you're doing AMS, I don't even have to take the $5,000 out of your account. So we're up to $20,000 if you guys aren't doing the math with me. So right now you're only costing yourself $20K. Now, the next thing is this. How many of you actually pivot in the house and offer another product when you get a no sell? How many pivot? Give me some stuff in the chat. How many of y'all pivot? I like that. I like to hear that. Yes. We got some professionals on here, some Hall of Fame producers right here. There we go. Look at that. Somebody got coached. A lot of coaching. Always. All of you guys are pivoting. It's so great that you have that $5,000 in your account right now. I'm very excited. Okay. So clearly, Jamie's doing a very good job of teaching you to pivot in the house on accidental. But yeah, that's crucial, guys. I'll keep the training short on that, but like, you've got to pivot to accidental, and the easiest way to sell that is literally tell them. And what I mean by that is, hey, listen, John and Mary, the biggest thing that we can, make sure to take off the table today is, if one of you guys don't make it home off the freeway tonight, there's no time to prepare. Literally, you're just going to, have all these bills right now. Usually with natural death, maybe you get, 4 months of cancer and you're gone, or a heart attack, maybe you stay alive for a minute. But with accidental, it's just right now. So, hey, for $65 a month or $300,000 for both of you, we're going to get you covered. And we got to at least do that. Hey, I understand you said no several times to making sure the whole thing was covered for $250, but we got to at least do the $65 a month. So can you just grab your driver's license and let's take care of that now? Be assumptive with that sale, you'll pick up more sales. So I'm glad that you're not costing yourself $5,000 there for the majority of us. So good job there. Lastly is probably the biggest one, right? And I love that you guys are doing the Monday and Thursday, and you're seeing some great experts in regards to recruiting. So what do you think the number one reason why your specific agency is not growing? Do you guys know the reason why you are not growing? Anybody know why you aren't growing? I know why you're not growing. So you are not growing. I like that, Al. You are not growing for one simple thing. Guess what you don't do? You don't schedule recruiting in your schedule. So how can you expect to grow if you don't have it in your schedule? We just identified at the beginning of this call that, you know, you've got a bunch of white space with all those no-shows, right? So why aren't you scheduling recruiting? You know, what is like you know what it can do for you in the business. You understand how important it is. So then we get into a few different things like, you know, do yourself a favor. Listen, there's so much good training on this stuff, but I'll be here to help pick up some pieces and give you some friendly reminders. You know, what if you started putting yourself out there and didn't care about what people thought? What if you did that? Like, I've had plenty of conversations, to be fair. You guys are everybody's hard on themselves. I'm hard on myself. We're all our biggest critics, right? But the truth of the matter is, some of you are not putting yourself out on social media because of weird things like, I don't like the way I talk, and I don't like the way I look, and I don't want to know, I just don't want to hear it from other people. And I'm concerned about what people might say. And the truth of the matter is, you know, you probably have 3 haters at the most, and that's the problem. You should have 10 times that many. You know, if you have a lot of haters, it means you've done something, right? The problem is right now is we're worried about your high school friend that, you know, said something wrong one time, and you've got, you know, PTSD from 10 years ago, and nothing really matters. And just remember this. Here's a little life lesson. I've got plenty of things to say. We could go all night, but you guys might fall asleep and it wouldn't help you make money. But when it comes to people thinking of you, by the way, you know, we have 70,000 thoughts that go through our head during the day, right? And you're thinking to yourself, so-and-so is thinking about me, or so-and-so is thinking about me. I promise you, or if you're worried about whoever's thinking about you, I promise you they're not thinking about you. You know why they're not thinking about you? Because you know what we do as human beings? We only think of ourselves. So you're over here thinking about, I'm worried about this person and what they think. And really, number one, they're not thinking about you, and they're doing the same thing you're doing, which is thinking about themselves. So why are we even worried about who's thinking about what and when and where, and why not just put it all out there? So, you know, those are some areas that I would go with. So if you do all those areas, right, that's $30,000 a month of additional income. And you wonder why this scenario is a multiple 6-figure, 7-figure deal. So what is your job? Your job is start to master one thing at a time as fast as you can and set new water lines. So your job isn't to get overwhelmed. Your job is to start doing the door knocks. Your job is to start DMing people on hashtags, following people and sending them a message. Your job is to be more creative. Your job is to put out a reel on social media that says, hey, do you have a plan B right now? Because if you do, it means plan A is not working. How long have you had the plan B? Probably a while. Well, guess what? Here at Family First Life, our compensation goes up to 145% with 4 carriers, and our average policy is $1,000 a month. Some people can sell 1 or 2 policies on the weekend, and some people can sell up to 100 policies for our top people. We don't know where you're going to fit in or how successful you'll be, but guess what? If the average policy is $1,000 and our compensation goes up to 145%, that means you get paid $1,450 for one person for 1 hour. If you want more information, call me today. You can't put out a reel right now. You can't put out a reel. All of you on this call right now, all 83 of you can't do a reel right now and throw it out. And you can't put hashtags of competitors, but you can put all the hashtags of life insurance, etc. So you can't just throw that out there to the world and see if anybody hits you up. Why? What do you have to lose? Why not? Who cares? Deliver it. That's what my thoughts are. And then watch your agency grow. So those are some areas right there that I'd open with. Here's the final. Here, I'll give you 5 sales tips. Jamie asked me to do this part. I'll give you 5 sales tips that you have to do in every single house to close business. Okay. So, and then I'll open up for a few questions. We'll wrap it up, and I'll try to go fast on the 5 sales things. This training is also on my YouTube page. I'm not pressing the YouTube page. I'm just saying if you wanted to reference it, it's there. So, first thing is, by the way, if you're missing one of these 5 people, then, or excuse me, if you're missing one of these 5 things, this is the reason why you're not getting the sale. So I used to walk out of every single sale and say, oh, there I was with this, this, and this. So the first one is, they buy you. This is an obvious thing. You know how many times you sold insurance where they're like, what's the name of the company? Right? Because they're buying you, right? So simple 101 math, their sales 101 is literally, do they like and trust you? And just remember, if you become too big of a friend, it's easy to say no to a friend. So there's like a fine line, right? The other thing that I would tell you is a secret weapon to sales. I've got a lot of them, but the secret weapon to sales is transfer of enthusiasm, right? 50% of sales is the transfer of enthusiasm. So if you're pitching people lukewarm, they're not going to buy from you. The other thing is humor was always my secret to sales. Because if I can get the guy that's folded up with his arms in the house and I can get him to laugh, he's going to buy from me. Now, the funny thing is when it happens the other way around and I can't get that guy to laugh, I probably should pack up and leave, but that's besides the point. So, and trust me, that's happened. So just making sure that they like and trust you is obviously the first part. The second part is the company and the carriers. So company, the reason why you chose Family First Life is because you want to be an independent agent to give you 20 plus carriers, to work with multiple carriers to get the best pricing options for their specific scenario. I could have been a captive agent where it's not a one size fits all scenario, but I chose to be independent. So John and Mary, can you see why we're doing the shopping for you through a broker versus an independent agent where it's a one size fits all scenario? Yes. Okay, great. Now you built value in the company and the carrier. The next thing is you have to be able to identify the problem. A lot of new people suck at this, and even veteran agents aren't that great. But you have to really identify the problem and then provide the proper solution. What I mean by the proper solution is if someone had a heart attack 5 years ago, 4 years ago, it's not a term product. It's a final expense product. So you need to know how to sell $30,000 face amounts to people that want $300,000 worth of coverage. Jamie will take all those leads. So will anybody else that's a top producer on here. But the problem is when you're new, when you get that scenario, you suck at it. So you got to learn how to be great at it, because that's probably your highest yield. Someone that's kind of seen mortality, that's not healthy, that hasn't made great financial decisions, etc. So the other thing is people buy based off emotion backed by logic. So the fourth thing is logic. The way you make logical sense is through financial inventory. So financial inventory is your weapon to finding premium. Financial inventory is your weapon to making, financial sense. Financial inventory allows you to find all the current life insurance. You should be getting, if you're running a full-time appointments and you're running a proper financial inventory, you should be able to have 3 IUL appointments and 2 annuity appointments every single week. So just to let you know, you should have at least that many. Because people are going to be contributing well above their 401k, which free money is the best type of money, then tax-free, then tax-free, then tax-deferred, then taxed. So building a tax-free retirement strategy is going to be the best way for them to especially with how much money is being printed right now. Tax-free retirement should be a great way for you guys to generate more sales as well. And then you got annuities. We touched on that as well. And then the last thing is the emotional part. You know, there's several different ways for you to drive emotion in the sale. You want to do it through maybe your own story, but more powerful is through their own, right? So easy ways to do that is, have you had a family member or friend die with or without life insurance? It doesn't matter what they say, because you're going to get them to talk about that specific scenario. Probably maybe one of the reasons why they triggered to fill out the form, right? So once you start to paint those pictures and they throw some emotion in it, what happens with emotions, it creates urgency. So it's important for you to create that urgency, otherwise they'll never buy. So those are the 5 things. You got emotion, logic, identify the problem, right solution. You've got the carriers and the companies, and then obviously by you. You miss one, you're going to strike out. So that is some important aspects. So if you want to, I can open up Jamie now to ask questions. I'll be honest with you guys, I'd rather kind of hit you in the mouth with some stuff than sugarcoat things and tell you you're greatest ever. I think that's the problem with our society nowadays, is everybody wants to get the warm and fuzzies, or that people act like they want to be coached hard and then the minute they get coached hard, they're like, he kind of hurt my feelings and I don't like him, so whatever. Anyways, so there you go.
We appreciate the truth, man. So yeah, we got a couple questions here in the chat. Joseph, new sales manager, just started on their recruiting campaign where he's calling some people who've requested information on Family First Life. He wants to know, what are some of the best screening questions you ask him recruiting a new agent?
So there's 4 things that, and this is simple, right? So I'll tell you, there's 2 sides of the story. People are either looking for, if they're answering any sort of ad, people are literally looking for higher comp, training and mentorship, better lead quality, or a place where you can build an agency. So that's it. Those are the 4 things. Now, the key component to when you start talking to people, you need to get on Glassdoor or whatever and see what their company is saying about the company. And let's say it's XYZ and they're saying, we don't have leads, or they only do recycled leads and they suck, or the comp is so low, or we have to recruit to write, or whatever the company's complaining about. So you combine the fact of, hey, you take the position of, hey, listen, we wouldn't be on the phone if something wasn't broken. Would you agree? You just don't get on the phone to a stranger if something wasn't broken. So you tell me what you're looking for. Is it the training you're missing? Is it the leads? Is it a combination of those 2? Is it, the compensation's not great? Is it you want to build an agency with the best bonus program and the ability to partner with integrity and get acquired? What are you really looking for, so I can help you get it? And then they'll open up to you. And this hiring game is not hard. It's really not. You can recruit your butt off. You'll build an agency faster. Just start talking to people how you want to be talked to, right? Start attracting them in a way, and you'll break down a lot of barriers. People are not answering ads because they're kicking ass. It's just not the case. So just remember, it's kind of like people don't fill out these forms and they're not interested. They walked on the car lot for a reason. They want to buy a car. The X factor and you recruiting and you selling is you. That is it. If you're not doing a very good job of recruiting, it's you. If you're not doing a very good job of selling, it's you. At the end of the day, it's you. I tell you what, you certainly give yourself credit when you doing good, but you certainly don't give yourself any credit when you doing bad. So how about that? But that's a great question.
Anything that you're saying or looking for specifically in an unlicensed agent. So, any questions you're asking to try to figure out kind of their character, if they're going to quit when things get hard, anything you're doing to disqualify somebody?
Yeah, I mean, those are all areas. I think I like to just ask them if they have a sales background, what's the most amount of money they make. I like to walk them through a scenario just to see if they quit. I like to do that with licensed people too, by the way. Like I like to know, are you the type of person that buys $1,000 worth of leads, doesn't have success, and then you quit and I never talk to you again? Because that happens in this industry. So I need to know what you're made of. Like, and by the way, if you say you're someone with some grit and you're going to stick with it, you'll be rewarded from my side of the coin too, because I'll stick with you too. If I know someone's working, then I guarantee all of you would match the effort of a recruit if you knew that you would go out and make personal sales probably to buy your recruit some leads just because you believe in them, so, and that's a case by case scenario, by the way, but you get what I'm saying. So yeah, there's no question. Bottom line, Jamie, is no questions off limits, right? So, and you get better at it with reps.
Yes. All right. We'll ask 2 more questions. What's your best advice to an agency owner or manager trying to help 30 families a month and build at the same time?
Well, number one, I think you got to have great staff, because if you want to scale it to the extent of where you need to be, you need to hire some people to work for you to, minimize some of that. And hey, we just identified 40 to 60% of your time is not what you thought it was. It's not 30 appointments, so don't tell me it's 30 appointments. It's either maybe 18 or maybe 12 to 13, somewhere in there. So you got a lot of hours. So don't use the I'm running 30 appointments excuse on why you're not recruiting on a consistent level. That's you just lying to yourself on it's too hard. And if you think it's too hard, don't do it then. Don't recruit, but stop acting like you could have this agency, stop acting like you're somebody that you're not, be honest with yourself. Do you want to execute when you know you get a no-show? What are you going to do with the time? Do you want to execute at a highest level there, or do you want to kind of piss away your time and not give a rip? Does that make sense? So there you have it.
Somebody calls you having a bad week in the field. What would your advice be to them to protect their mindset? And maybe that advice today would be a little bit different than what you actually did when you were in the field and what you did to protect your mindset. But what would be a conversation you'd coach an agent with today? And then what did you actually do when you're out in the field?
Good question. So the difference, here's the deal, is like everybody has a best 100 days, right? Like everybody has the best 100 days, their top 100 days. Everybody has a middle 100. I'm not interested in your middle or top 100. You know what I'm interested in is your worst 100 days. Because if your worst 100 days have the same activity and schedule and habits as your best 100 days, it doesn't matter that you had a bad week in the field or day in the field or whatever, because you're setting yourself up for success because you're doing the exact same things without the emotion. The truth of the matter is our emotions, me included, they can really be detrimental to your business. And hey, sales is a dopamine hit. Let's be honest. Like you get the same dopamine hit, at least I did. Maybe I was just chasing dopamine hits in my sales career. But you literally get the same feeling as like working out or, at least I did. Maybe it could be dopamine from sex, whatever, you could think of it. It could be alcohol, all the bad stuff too, good or bad. But I'm just saying sales is a dopamine hit. I don't care what anybody says. You get high on sales. The problem with the sales part is there's a really high and then there's a really low scenario there too. So what happens is we ride the roller coaster of emotions. 1 minute we're retiring, we're calling mom and dad, and I'm literally, mom and dad, I'm retiring in another 2 years. I cannot believe how good this thing is. I'm gonna buy your house. No, next month. Yeah, no, I've got it. And then like minutes later, you're like, you got your first charge back, and you're like, Mom, Dad, I gotta quit. I've gotta quit. This is harder than I thought. I'm gonna quit. This sucks. Oh my gosh. Then you get a sale and you're like, whoa, Mom and Dad, listen, I've been looking at cars. And man, these are some really nice cars out here. I cannot wait to get those cars. And then you get another charge back. You're like, listen, man, I don't think I'm cut out for this. So the trouble is we all been up and down. We got to stay in the middle. You've heard it a million times. But that's the key. Get off the roller coaster, stay consistent. And Mike said this first 6 months. That's hilarious. Yeah. Stay consistent. And have your, call your upline. So have a, throughout my career, like the one thing, I had a couple support people in my career along the way, because I was like, hey man, I'm on the ledge again. I'm that guy too. Like, hey, I'm on the ledge again, thinking about jumping. What's your thoughts? They're like, yeah, step away from the ledge, my friend. I said, oh, okay. Yeah, it's not that bad. Okay, great. So, yeah, that is a dangerous cliff, but I promise it's not that bad. You won't be in the soup. It's crazy how the human brain is 3 times more negative than positive, right? So it's crazy how extreme we get. Like, you get a charge back, go 0 for 4 in a day, and you're like, dude, I'm gonna be in the soup line. I'm probably gonna have to sell some clothes. Like, Craig, I'm gonna listen, man, this is serious out here. I just bought these shoes. I'm gonna return these shoes, okay, honey? I didn't mean to buy them. Anyways, you get the point. So that's we're pretty extreme. So it's never that bad. It's never that great. Just try harder, and everything will take care of itself. You got one more question?
No, I just wanted to comment. I've been on the ledge and I've coached many people off the ledge. And guys, there's a bad day and there's a bad week, but if you put in the activity consistently, it's almost impossible to have a bad month. I mean, I can't look back in the last 2 years and say that I've ever had a bad month here. And if I ever had a bad month, it was because I did not put in the activity. There was a family vacation. There was something that happened that took me off of my activity game. But I've had so many days, and so many people on this call, Matt's had them, where you go, 0 for 18 over 2 days, and you think, did I forget how to sell insurance? Did I lose my mojo? You start asking yourself all those questions. And then this business, what's so cool about it is how quickly it can redeem itself. It's not like another business where I have a bad year in a restaurant franchise. Like, how are we going to redeem ourselves? I need another 2 good years to make up for that bad year. But here you can have a bad week and you can make up for it in a good day. It's the craziest thing in the world if you're just willing to continue to put in the activity. So Matt, any final thoughts? I think the biggest thing is, how do you make them be here a year from now and get into those back end commissions, make it all worth it, get past that 100 appointments? How do you be here?
Yeah, I mean, you got to make it to months 10, 11, and 12, right? That's when the trailing commissions come in, and that's where life gets much better. I think one of the biggest business lessons, Jamie, and everybody that is still listening, is I was fortunate enough early on in my sales career to understand opportunity costs. So when I was working at Dave Smith Motors and F&I at the time, I was making like $8,000 a week in sales spiff money, and they would tell me to go on a Chrysler vacation or to Hawaii or Super Bowl or something like that. And I remember, I don't know what, nobody told me this though. I don't know. It just was like, and I was young. I probably should have took the trips looking back at it, but whatever. I was like, I am not going to go on this trip because it's going to cost me $8,000 in sales. And that was my biggest lesson in business, is everything has a cost. So if you don't recruit right now, your future self's not going to like yourself. If you understand that anything, you talk to any true, like, legit entrepreneur, not a Matt Smith guy, like a legit guy, right? If you make a 10-year run in anything, you'll become wealthy. You will. If you make a strong 10-year run in a sales environment, you'll become wealthy. You turn it into 20 years, and it gets even better. But literally, think about it. How many times are you going to quit? Like, literally, like, how many times are you going to quit? Most Americans take 11 jobs a year. That's why there's $1 trillion of orphan 401k money, but that's besides the point. So most people quit that many times. Like, at what point are you going to, one of the driving factors for me, Jamie, is you have to make 2 people happy in life. It's not Sean Mike, and it's not Matt Smith, and it ain't Jamie, but there's 2 people in your life. And that is the 8-year-old self and the 80-year-old self, because the 8-year-old self had all those dreams and aspirations. And then the 80-year-old self is the person that you get to answer to at the end of the day. And all I do is I think about when I'm 80, or hopefully I get there. That could be determined. But let's just pretend I am, or let's hope that all of us make it age 80. Well, when you're 80 years old and you don't have the energy and effort and everything else, don't you want to tell yourself and look at yourself in the mirror and say, I gave it everything I got, versus you've heard that stories. Oh, I could have done this. I could have done that. I would have been this. I would have been that. That's exhausting. And you're going to still be the same person lying to yourself at age 80. I would rather just give it everything I had, copy success, talk to people, get some accountability partners, put some massive action behind it, put a lot of your fear behind you, than everything else. So, yeah.
That's it. Matt, thank you so much. We appreciate you. Everybody drop a Northwest NW in the comments if you guys got some value out of Matt tonight. Thank you guys. Everybody have an amazing night. We'll talk to y'all soon.